This is part 4 of the Craftsman King Seeley 150 drill press rebuild series. If you haven't seen part 3, click the link at the top of the screen. In this video we will be doing a simple green soak and then a citric acid soak. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff and welcome to my shop. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Okay, so I soak parts in simple green to degrease them, remove heavy debris and some of the paint, if not all the paint. And so we're going to soak all these parts for about 24 hours. Now, everything that I soak in simple green is metal or plastic. I do not soak any of the electronic components, and I do not soak anything that has graphics on it because the simple green will remove those graphics. So once we've got all this stuff inside this bin, we're just going to add the simple green. Now these are 2.5 gallon jugs of simple green. I get them from Home Depot. They're about 20 bucks a gallon or 20 bucks a jug. And that's the cheapest I've found it. And the good thing about simple green is it's environmentally safe. It's non-toxic. It doesn't give off a super strong odor, so I can do this indoors. And it's reusable. So I'll reclaim the simple green, and I end up using this stuff probably about 10 times before I throw it away and then get new jugs of it. So here we are 24 hours later, and we're going to reclaim it. And I've just got this battery powered siphon. You can get them at Harbor Freight or off of Amazon. And I'm running this stuff through a funnel, and then I've got a screen inside that funnel that's a 125 micron paint filter. So I'm filtering the simple green as I reclaim it. And this is how I do it. So a lot of times when I make a video, I end up chopping a lot of this stuff out, but I decided to leave most of it in today, in today's video, so that you guys could see the entire process. And you'll notice that some of the parts on the inside there of the bin, they've got kind of a orange buildup around them, like that the table around the column area there. And that is the grease or oil that has been, I don't know, degraded, if you will. When we rinse these parts off, that'll come right off. And I think that's it. So at that point, we remove the parts and then we rinse them off. And here we're just rinsing them off. But the camera died, so sorry about that. Basically, all the parts were pulled, rinsed, and then ready for the citric acid soak. But before we get to that, this is the column, and we're going to do a simple green soak on it. So this is a piece of 4-inch PVC pipe that I've got an end cap on the end. And we're just going to put the simple green in there. It takes about 2.5 gallons for that pipe. And we'll let that sit for 24 hours. And then we'll come back, and to reclaim the simple green out of that pipe, I've got that 5-gallon bucket there that I'm going to pour the simple green into, and then pull the column out. We'll rinse the column off. And then we're going to place the column back inside that tube after we've rinsed it out. And this is where we're going to do a citric acid soak on the column. Now the citric acid is to remove rust. So we'll mix up a little bit of citric acid there, and like I said, it's about 2.5 gallons, so 3 of these little tablespoons should get us where we need to be. I usually mix about 1 of those tablespoons per gallon of water. Then we'll just fill the column up the rest of the way, and we're going to let that sit for 24 hours. Now we're doing the citric acid outdoors because it has a strong rotten egg odor to it once it starts working. So for the rest of the parts, we're going to mix up some citric acid in the bin again. We've already rinsed that bin out. And it was about 20 gallons, so it'll get 20 of these teaspoons. We'll rinse that up and let it get agitated. And then we'll start putting the parts in there. So I normally tell people do not put Zamak inside the citric acid. Everything else that you soaked into simple green, as long as it's metal, you can soak it into citric acid. But Zamak, which was used for, in this case, the pulleys, it gets this weird film on it after it's been soaked inside citric acid. But I went ahead and put the pulleys in here because I talk about this in a lot of my videos, but I never really show everybody what I'm talking about here. So when we pull these parts out 24 hours later and rinse them off, you'll see. And yes, I did put the 2 end shields or end frames for the motor in the simple green and in the citric acid. I think they're aluminum. I don't think they're Zamak. But they do have some steel parts on them that get rusty. So I went ahead and soaked them in the citric acid as well. So again, 24 hours later, we're going to remove the parts and then we're going to rinse them off. And then we're going to dry them. And we're going to towel dry most of these parts. We might use some compressed air a little bit. And once we've got these parts dried off, towel dried if you will, we are going to coat a lot of these parts that aren't going to get painted with WD-40. And that is just a stopgap measure so that they don't start building up rust again before we get a chance to clean them up. And by cleaning them up, I mean with wire wheels, which is probably going to be the next video, is a whole bunch of wire wheeling, maybe the column cleanup, I'm not sure. So these are the parts we just rinsed and now we're just towel drying them. And then we're going to put most of them inside these little plastic bins I've got. And we'll coat them down with WD-40 because none of these parts are going to get painted. They're just going to get wire wheeled at some point. So the other stuff that I don't really soak in simple green or Zamak is chrome parts like the hub and the quill stop and the feed stop bracket. But a lot of times I will soak them in the simple green. It won't hurt them. But there's no reason to put them in the citric acid because they're Zamak. They're just chrome plated Zamak. So here we are rinsing off one of the pulleys, and these are Zamak. And you'll see here in a second this film that I've been talking about in so many videos. Cleaning my hand off. So I'll just rub it and then show you. See that? Yep. And that is on the surface of all the Zamak. Now, I haven't had a problem with cleaning it off later on, and I don't think it I don't know if it makes the part brittle, but for years I soaked all this stuff in citric acid, even including the Zamak parts, and then I just cleaned them up. And my personal drill presses were done this way, and they work fine. So um, it's just a little bit messy to deal with. And the Zamak doesn't rust, so there was really no reason to soak it in the citric acid. So here we're just rinsing off more parts, and then we're going to towel dry all these parts. And again, anything that's not going to get painted will get coated in WD-40, with the exception of those two pulleys, because even though they're not going to get painted, they're not going to rust, because Zamak doesn't rust. So everything else here, if we just let it sit and it takes a week or so for us to get to it, it's going to have a surface rust on it. That's just going to be more of a pain in the butt to clean up later on. So WD-40, like I said, will slow that down. Now for long-term protection, you don't want to coat raw metal with WD-40. You want to use like super slick stuff or some penetrating oil. The WD-40 has water in it, and so it will rust in time. All right. So everything that's going on the towel on the left there is going to get painted, or it's not going to get coated in WD-40. So here we are with some more parts. Just rinsing them off. Now a lot of times I'll just use a wire brush while I'm rinsing these parts off and knocking any of the rust that's still on them off, or paint. But we're not going to mess with the wire brush today. We're just rinsing this stuff off. Now there is, these two end shields or end frames have sleeve bearings. So there is kind of a gauze or cotton on the inside of the sleeve that is supposed to get filled up with oil. And so we did soak this stuff in simple green and in the citric acid. So I made sure I rinsed them out really well. And we're going to let those dry completely before we ever get to the point that we're putting oil back in them. I'm sure there's a way to get the gauze or cotton out of them, but I've never done it, and I don't want to take the chance of messing up something that I don't own. So that's the table. This is the head. We're just rinsing these parts off. And this is the base. As you can see, the citric acid is also, it's food grade, so it's non-toxic, so dumping it is no big deal. It just smells like rotten eggs. Alright, so we've got these parts and we're back at the workbench, and we're just going to towel dry them again. Now, because most of your cast iron parts have a texture to them, and that's kind of a result of how they cast them in sand molds, using a towel like this, you get lint all over them, and that's kind of a pain in the butt when you go to paint, obviously. So you could wipe the parts down with some mineral spirits before you paint, and that'll help you remove the lint that might get on them, but I try to avoid that step. So I'm doing more of a pat with this towel as opposed to a wiping. Try to cut down on the amount of lint. Alright, well that is going to wrap up this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. In the next video we will get to wire wheeling and cleaning up some of these parts with angle grinder, bench grinder, that kind of stuff. As always, I appreciate the support. If you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. And I will see you next time.